The Netflix documentary, The Perfect Neighbor, is about Susan Lorincz and her repeated calls to police with complaints about her neighbor's kids.
You know, I'm peaceful and quiet. I'm like the perfect neighbor.
The Marion County Sheriff's Department responds to numerous petty complaints
The Karen called.
until one night it became deadly serious. I'm John. I'm an actual 911 dispatcher, and I'm joined by Drew, a 29-year state-certified Florida cop. We'll give our reactions to the documentary and break down the case for you here on the Comm Center. Wake up, America. It's the Comm Center. Make sure you hit like and subscribe for more content just like this. Ever respond to a hot call like this one?
Yeah. Just sitting in a parking lot and all of a sudden the radio goes on. Like that's what I miss.
Do you miss being in a marked police car, getting to drive however the hell you want? I know you miss that.
No, I don't.
I've been with you in your Audi. You were driving that thing like it was marked.
It's been a while since I've driven a marked police car. You and my wife share this myth in common that I'm a bad driver.
I didn't say bad. I said you drive like you mean it.
That's a good characterization. I think she would agree with that.
Friends, she's the topic of the documentary, Netflix documentary, The Perfect Neighbor. This documentary is about a woman who had frequent run-ins with all of her neighbors, and she frequently would call the police to mediate disputes between her and the neighborhood children and other people in the neighborhood. And this eventually escalates into a fateful night for her. But Drew, let me ask you this first question. Do you recall getting, when you were on patrol all those years ago, getting called out to mediate or litigate these little petty disputes about who's trespassing on property and dog turds? And let me ask you, taking pictures of kids because you're trying to prove that they're trespassing. This is in a modern era in which we don't like people taking pictures of kids even outside. Is it against the law? Is it problematic?
It's problematic, but there's nothing illegal about it. I mean, she's taking pictures from inside her home of kids outside. I mean, yeah, like when you talk to her, you're going to remind her how weird it is. And you're going to remind her how it looks to the parents. She doesn't really seem to care. There's no law broken here, but people, instead of having civil conversations with their neighbors, turn to calling the non-emergency number and talking to you. And then you naturally have no choice but to put the call in the system for me to respond. This is the damned if you do, damned if you don't, because both are paying your salary. Both have the right to say, I pay your salary and I demand you do something about this. Flip the coin in the middle of the street and decide who's going to get the ball at halftime.
Chiefs. Pretty good police work here. They were able to empathize with her, make her feel better, and also make her understand the rules.
Yeah, and that's all you can do. Like, there's nothing.
How come that didn't make CNN?
I don't know. I don't know. It's blatant racism.
I don't know why would that not sell a Pfizer commercial? I just don't get it.
It's proof positive once again that you don't have to take sides, but you can empathize with somebody. But just the same, I can see them having a private conversation with her, saying, "Look, I get it. You're in there and."
Well, both sides have legitimate grievances, right? Like nobody wants a sign thrown at them. Trespassing is the law, but this lady at the same time, I don't want kids all over my yard. I mean, I understand the way that she feels. And if this is something where she's complained about it a lot and the kids obviously don't care, I could see her getting upset about it. Oh, well, Drew, how many times have you walked away from someone who called the police, a criminal, or someone who's making a criminal complaint or a civil complaint, but someone who wants a call for service from the police? How many times have you walked away and forgetting your body cam is still on, and you offer a salty oath of the truth of what you think about that person?
I don't think she cared that her body cam was still on, but I'll be honest. I was fortunate enough to not have to wear a body cam.
Yeah, you got to get away with all that shit.
I will tell you though, there are times that I would say stuff like that to people, like with them there. Like it's just sometimes it just comes out that way, and it's just like
sometimes people need to hear it. Like, man, would you like to hear an alternative, objective point of view? I just came to the situation, so I don't know what it's like to live here. But you're a fucking bitch, Like, do you think that maybe that would smooth things over?
Yeah, like it's just sometimes I need to hear a harsh reality, and I'll always take my lumps when I've done something wrong. Like nobody deserves to be talked to that way. But at the same time, there are reasons that your buttons are pushed intentionally because you're being talked to that way, and you're having a natural human response to that.
Yeah. I mean, imagine this is how the lady talks to the police officers, right? She kind of bullies them, kind of talks down to them.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
this is a law. You should know that. This is how she's talking to someone with authority. Can you imagine how she talks to the children who don't have the authority or credibility of adults? She probably rips them a new one.
Yeah. And by the way, like, hey, look, you seem to know the law more than me. I don't have a law license. If you do and you got another remedy, go for it. But I'm here
She said, go tell your lawyer, because she knows that the lawyer's like, what, gonna send a cease and desist over to a bunch of kids, and that's gonna have the force of law. Come on now. Calls like this, often not of this specific type, but people calling me about utterly non-criminal issues. There's a whole swath of human behavior out there that is onerous and annoying, that doesn't fall anywhere within the state statutes, and thus it doesn't give a police officer any kind of leverage to control that person's or restrain that person's behavior. It sucks, but it is what it is. Now, sometimes there's city ordinances about noise, or sometimes there's curfews and things like that. And there's some other routes that you can go. But a lot of times when people call me up, they do vent, they do tell me these stories, and I have to get to the end of it. I usually try not to cut them off, because sometimes venting helps. And I let them know, sorry, but the police are here to enforce the law and to protect people's rights. And I don't say this part out loud, but as much as you would like them to come be your personal enforcers, they will not be doing that tonight.
This goes to dependence, though, John. This is exactly, so you're 1,000% right. Like, and you're a trained negotiator, and you know, sometimes people just need to be heard, and so you just let them vent. There's an instance where I was a shift commander. The original neighborhood, the original people that bought their homes, just probably 2 or 3 families were left. After a while, it became a predominantly Black neighborhood, with the exception of these 2 or 3 people who just hung on. They would call and just cherry pick every little incident. They're out in the street yelling again. They're out with their loud music. They're out smoking cigarettes. It's a group of kids and they're smoking, and I would cancel. Like, look, I don't know what you want me to do. However, you're entitled to your peace and quiet. Yes, you're not entitled to quell their good time. You're not entitled to harsh their mellow, John.
Yeah, I mean, at the same time, she has the right to peace and quiet. At the same time, other kids have the right to go outside and play. And in this man's opinion, smoke as soon as they can. Isn't that kind of terrible that this officer, first of all, I love the way he's like, it's better for you guys to be running and playing than being on TikTok. You could tell this guy might even be a father, but he's having to appeal to the children to be the bigger person in this engagement. What does that tell you about what his opinion is of this lady? Because they're backing up everything that the parents are saying, that she's using all this rude language. She wants to be called doctor, but she's calling them the R word and all these other terrible things. She's clearly not modeling any kind of respectful engagement or anything. But the cop has to go to these kids and say, listen, I need you guys to be the adults in this situation. And you hope that he can have that conversation with her. But Drew, have you ever had to tell kids to be the adults here, to be the mature ones?
It happens more frequently than you think, because sometimes it happens in domestics a lot too. But because sometimes both parents are a little drunk. He's trying to speak to them on their level, and he's getting through to them, and he's telling them truths. He's saying, look, I wasn't here. I can't say whether you went on her porch or not. I'm not worried about that. I'm just telling you, don't do that. But I would rather you be over there than be on TikTok. So,
and here's the fairness that never gets depicted in the media when it comes to policing, when it comes to how people actually solve problems. You're only seeing, especially in the last 5 years, the cases where the cops jump out and the guns are being drawn and nothing gets settled peaceably. But Drew, I think you would agree that so far as calls for service for police go, this is probably one of the most mundane and something that happens in this country millions of times a day without any incident.
You're correct. And that's what we don't look at. So if there's 130 use of force deaths a year, we're going to focus on the 130. We're not going to focus on the 30 million contacts that police officers across the U.S. have. And I just pulled those numbers out of thin air. I mean, I'm not citing statistics here.
A lot of cases that look bad, but it doesn't truly represent what real policing is, and this does.
Do you find, John, that sometimes people like the doctor, this lady figures out your work schedule or the patrol shift's work schedule and knows when to call and when not to call?
We call it cop shopping.
Exactly. It's cop shopping. So lieutenant, so A shift midnights, I'm not going to call. Those guys aren't working tonight. Therefore, I'll call.
Yeah.
It happens more frequently than people understand.
She rammed it with her truck and apparently got a flat tire in the process.
I think this is probably done by the filmmakers, and I'm glad they put it in there to establish that she's not only well aware of what trespassing is, she's being investigated herself, right? And when she calls the Marion County Sheriff's Office, she's this doctor who's nice as pie and knows about parcels. But when she knows she's in the wrong, she's yelling and screaming and lying, and it tells a different story. I'm kind of glad that this is in here. There are two sides of the story, obviously. Both have an argument in this case, but she's doing the exact same thing that she's accusing everybody else of doing. She was trespassing. She tried to solve the problem on her own by ramming the gate and pulling out.
Essentially tried to Mirandize her. She said, I don't want to talk. So he's done at that point. I think the cop didn't want to talk to her. I think maybe he's met her before and he knows that, thank God she doesn't want to talk to me. That means I can leave and just go get my sworn statement and move forward from here. But now she's evoking this victim status in order to get some kind of pity. Was that fairly common for you?
Yeah, well, look, interpreting what he's doing, he's just trying to put this to rest. Like, he's gonna Mirandize her. She's gonna say, yes, I was in there, I shouldn't have done that. He's gonna go back to the property owner and say, look, if you guys want to come to a peaceful resolution where she pays, that's between you guys. If you really want to push this as a criminal matter, it's gonna be tough, but we'll do it. 9 times out of 10, that's what happens. Dispute gets settled. Like, once she shuts it down, though, with the Miranda thing, I think at that point you've pissed me off. So it's almost like, okay, well, you're going to make me earn my money. I am going to earn my money. I have the discretion to end this right here and right now. I also have the discretion to take this as far as I need to take it. And this other guy called me for assistance. I'm going to handle it exactly how I see fit. And if he identifies you in the photo lineup, we'll just get a misdemeanor warrant for your arrest for the trespassing and the damage, and we'll come arrest you. If she had invoked the victim thing right up front, like, look, if she were being honest, she would be like, look, it freaked me out. He like locked me in there, which is a counter argument, by the way, like it's a false imprisonment almost at this point. But look, he locked me in there and I've been before. And, like me as a cop, and I guarantee this guy who seems to have a great head on his shoulders would have been like, I got it. I'm going to go talk to him. I'm not going to mention all that, but we can work this out. It makes sense. Just give me something to make this make sense, basically. And she didn't. She resisted it.
Because she knew she would.
Literally attacked me, picked up the sign and thrown it at me.
So she's relitigating that call for service from the past, from months ago. She's still talking about the sign getting thrown at her. Like, because for her, it's all one big issue, right? The police roll out. This officer's been here before, but for her, it's one long ongoing thing. And every time something happens, whether a kid puts a puppy in the back of her truck or whatever, it's all just another skirmish in this long war that she's in with the children.
You bring a great point, John, because it's all aggregated for the people that live across the street, and it's all aggregated for Dr. Susan.
And I have a feeling like this was something that happened where they were being annoying and she was rude back. It has probably been spiraling out of control ever since. They antagonize her, and then she goes after it, and then the cops show up, and then nothing ever comes out of it. And both sides probably leave feeling like they can continue in their behavior because nothing comes out of it. Before we go any further on what really happened, because we've clearly got two different stories, let's talk about castle doctrine in Florida and shooting through the door. Castle doctrine is the right to defend yourself in your home, but there's a lot of caveats to that, and it's largely situational. And a lot of times when people call 911, they ask me when they can use lethal force or potentially lethal force to protect themselves. And I try not to give advice because it's the totality of circumstances, and I'm not going to give advice when I can only go by what they tell me. But Drew, when the person has a door closed and locked and no one has come through it, shooting through the door, I know you're not a lawyer, but what does your gut tell you on the legality of that move?
This is definitely not legal advice, but the imminent threat of death or great bodily harm to yourself or somebody else, and the imminence is, you're going to have to prove that there was an imminent threat, other than they were kicking my door in. Like the tense of kicking, the past tense would be kicked. So if she said something like they kicked my door in, it would imply that there's no space. There isn't any space between her and the potential assailant. It's a different story, but she's saying she was beating on my door. She was saying, I'm going to beat your ass. I'm going to beat your ass. And I was scared for my life. So I just shot through the door. No way. That's not going to fly. Not in any universe, because you don't know what the threat is. Like we even know by seeing the door from the past that there's no window. So, just by beating on the door, yelling, come to the door, I'm going to break it down or whatever, until they break it down, it's nothing.
Yeah.
It's probably scary as hell, but it's nothing. And you do have something to defend yourself with if that happens. So I've said it before and I'll say it again. People think that the law enforcement officers' post-traumatic stress comes from the blood and the guts, or the thoughts of leaving your home for the last, leaving your home not knowing whether you're going to make it back or not. But Izzy is my post-traumatic stress. Like the reactions, the thought that this kid, this 11-year-old kid, and I have an 11-year-old kid that's close to me here, but the thought that this 11-year-old kid left his tablet and essentially didn't keep track of his tablet is going to think for the rest of his life that had he kept track of his tablet, his mother wouldn't have been killed. And just putting yourself in the shoes of an 11-year-old kid that's never going to see his mother again is pretty difficult. It's hard to deal with. And then even dealing with the ex-husband, and then the ex-husband dealing with the mother, it's those wails and those cries and those notifications. Those are the hardest things to overcome. Could you have done it better? Could you have, set, but, and there's always going to be like a small percentage of survivor's guilt, and stuff like that. But, very interesting stuff. So we'll cover the interrogation in the next episode, and the interrogation in the court part in the next episode, because it's a little bit, at least we have a good basis of what the story is.
Yeah, it's tough to see all that collateral damage and not internalize that, not carry that home with you. There's not a police officer there that had to watch a man tell the three children that his mother's not going to make it, and watching the neighbors react and all that. There's no one that went home and just forgot about that took off their duty belt and their vest and just went back to their own lives without thinking back on what they had to endure that day. Folks, if you like this show, we do lots of reactions, lots of breakdowns of cases just like this. Make sure you hit like, make sure you hit subscribe to keep up with the Comm Center. We always appreciate you. We've got a huge library of previous episodes, but we hope you catch you back here next week. We're going to be diving back into Susan Lorincz. Drew here taught a 39-hour course on interviews and interrogations. He's an expert on that. I dabble in certain things. It's going to be a good time. Drew, great episode.
Great episode.
1,000 episodes.
1,000.
1,000 episodes of Comm Center.
Significantly transformed episode.
Yes, for copyright purposes.